Hey, everybody, and welcome to Tears and Tool Talk, Tears and Taffeta Talk. I am Gina Bell, and I am your host today. And I am so excited about our guest that we have. My good friend Travis is here with us today. And Travis, will you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody here?
I'm Gina's friend, Travis. Her and I have been friends for, I think, like 4 years, and we've done a lot of good work together. And I think we'll get into that a little bit, right, Gina? But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm a filmmaker person, and I met Gina through that. So yeah,
yeah,
hey,
cool. Welcome. I start every podcast episode out with a tears and tool or a tears and taffeta moment in life. And so I've invited you to give your tears and taffeta moment. And for anyone who's just joining us, like for the first time and wants to join along, we say something we love about ourselves. And then we say something that's a tears moment. And then we always finish with especially then, like this community, especially then. Anyone listening can say especially then. And of course, Travis and I will as well. So, for example, you might say, I am kind even when I lose my cool, especially then. So, Travis, I've invited you to give your tears and taffeta moment of the day.
I love it. I am present, um, especially when I am completely swamped and overwhelmed, or
Oh,
even
what a
and especially then, yes.
especially then. What a great it. So everyone, it's the day before Thanksgiving, and there can be some overwhelm that comes with the holidays. So I love to hear your even one, especially then. Thank you for sharing it, Travis.
Of course, it's a great practice.
Yeah. All right. So I have to mention to everybody how special today's podcast episode is because Tears and Tool, the day that I met Travis, the time in my life that I was working with Travis the most, probably, I hadn't even dreamt up Tears and Tool yet, and Tears and Taffeta wasn't even like a twinkle in my eye. It wasn't around yet, and so Travis, you were one of the very first people to see me in the Tears and Tool skirt, and one of the first people to show me video footage of what it looked like of me twirling and moving in it and running down this overpass. So when people read the book or they learn about the movement, that overpass moment is huge. It's such a big part of, I feel like seeds just burst out of me somehow. And I didn't even know it was happening. And it was such a special moment in my life. And you were there for that. And I'll never forget you saying, come here, look at the video. And I looked at it and I thought, who the heck is that? Like, this is so cool. And so a dream really was being born that day. And I know we're going to get into how you felt wearing the cape and where you wore it and all these super cool things about that. But we do have history, and I would love for you to share with our listeners, with our viewers, a little bit more about you and that story and how we came to be.
Yeah, wow. It was a crazy time in both of our lives. But for anybody that's listening that doesn't know, Gina was on a reality TV show that it was called Fix My Brand with Allie Craig, and um, she was one of the people on the show that basically we would come and film her brand creation process. Um, and the take a bunch of pictures, professional pictures, and record a video and do all this different these branding exercises. And so I'm a filmmaker, and I was hired to come film the show. So I met Gina. There were seven different women, eight, maybe eight different women, entrepreneurs that went to Florida. We were in a house, stayed in the house for a weekend, and went through all these different branding exercises. And that's where I met Gina. And yeah, so part of hers was coming into her color and finding her color. And so the host ordered this skirt, and that was the inception of the whole thing. And it was really Allie Craig. So her idea to order the skirt, she ordered the skirt from what's her name, Indy True,
Yes.
Remind me.
Cassie.
Yeah. And so she made the skirt last minute for Gina, and it was delivered to the house as we were filming. So, um, yeah, I got to film Gina opening up this gigantic box with this. If anybody has ever had that skirt shipped to them, I'm sure they've gotten the same experience that you did, the exact same. So yeah, she opened it up and like an explosion of tulle, right, comes out, and you had no idea what to expect, which was really cool. You had no idea what was in there. So yeah, it was as far as from my end, it was I didn't know either what your brand was going to look like, what I would be filming, but this skirt, this big explosion of color coming out of this box was really fun to film, and then for you to put it on the first time and for us to go out in the sunset and see how it was lit up by the sun, the Florida sun, and to be able to film in slow motion and all this stuff with you just enjoying it and running around this overpass. It was just a really beautiful moment. And every once in a while, those moments come by when you're filming something, everybody's, in the zone and really enjoying it. And I think like a lot of the times when we're filming stuff in the profession, you get like a little bit like caught up in the story of like, all right, we got this, time to move on, like bada bing, bada boom. But yeah, it was a really beautiful moment, and yeah, that's kind of how we met, and that's where the skirt really started.
Yes. Yeah. And neither one of us had any idea what was about to happen. The skirt is on House 51 this week. It's I just visited this doll maker, this amazing doll maker, and you're beautiful, amazing. I've decided my word for Annie is fierce. She just has this fierce energy about her that you just want to be her friend, and you want to stand up for whatever she's doing. And she's just this super cool person. And she ended up wearing the skirt in season 1, which was such a beautiful moment for me. And then to hear her story, and then Tears and Taffeta is born. And it's for anyone that isn't sure, Tears and Taffeta, like Tears and Tulle, is taffeta is a fabric. And so Cass Youngs of Indie True made this gorgeous cape that my 6'8" brother wore first, and it's bigger than he is. So if that gives you an idea of how large the cape is, um, you both graciously said yes to both projects. And I know that I was sending both of you messages. Oh my gosh, you're both on a path, like in one of these pictures. And it just felt like it all came sort of full circle, like my relationship with you and that day on the overpass. Oh my gosh, Travis, that the overpass is a path too, in a way.
For sure.
Whoa,
Yeah, no doubt.
that's awesome. That was like this awesome spontaneous moment in my.
Uh,
So all these paths, sort of leading us all, together. And I'm so grateful for my relationship with both of you at this point. And you had this beautiful wedding, and just all these magical things have happened from within the messiness of life, from a COVID world, and all these, different adventures that we kind of went on together, there were ups and downs back then. And yeah, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about your experience with the Cape, from maybe the moment that it arrived. Would you
yeah,
like?
well, so first off, like I've always been since the moment I met you, you're such a you bring so much light into the world, and you're such an easy person to want to follow because you enable people to feel like they shouldn't be ashamed to show their creativity, and I think that it's very infectious. And so having you asked, well, my wife Annie, like to do the tools and taffeta, to, sorry, to do the skirt. She was like, what can I mean, what could I possibly bring to this? And it's like, well, it does, you don't, it doesn't have to be something, um, you don't have to be a superstar. You just have to reflect on what you could bring to it. And that's what Gina does. So it's like the exercise of having something you receive something that other people are gonna read and reflect on themselves. It's really just a really good exercise on how to be grateful for what you have, and also reflect on what in your life it makes you feel feelings, and how you can move forward with those feelings constantly. So, yeah, I mean, getting the skirt back when I was shooting my wife in it was was I had to feel a lot of feelings too, because I hadn't seen that skirt for since we shot the show, but I've seen it go all over the country, and so I had a connection to that thing too. So when I got it back to me and was shooting my wife in it, I was like, wow, this thing has it has a lot more meaning to me than I could have imagined. Um, and yeah, it was just a blast, and it's something that we'll both remember forever. Um, but
Whew.
you when you decided, yeah, I mean, it was a big
Beautiful, Travis. It's beautiful. It's just so beautiful. All of it.
the when you decided to do the Cape, I was like, okay, I hope I can do this too. I would love if she asked me to do it. But I had my hangups. Like, I'm sure a lot of other people that get the Cape or got the skirt, I'm sure we can all relate to this. If you're listening, like, I get it. For me, I knew that it was coming, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna think about it, and it goes through my head quite a bit. Like, I want to create something good. I want to be able to tell my own story. I want to like bring what I can in the best way. And then when I got it, I was like, oh, there's a lot of stuff that's like coming up for me right now to do this, and I'm dealing with that. Like, as I got it, I'm like, wait, I'm a video professional. I do like professional photos. Like, I gotta make it good. I gotta do this. I put a lot of pressure on myself, um, and was like, that pressure was not enabling me to actually go out and just physically shoot the pictures. And I was like, that's a big hang up for me. So how do I move past that? And that's the dark side of the uh, Tears and Taffeta for me. It was like, I really want to do this, but why am I setting these like high standards for myself that it don't even enable me to get out there and do it at all? So yeah, again, it was like a really big exercise in figuring out my own mind and my own hangups, and just this big, giant, colorful cape that you could, possibilities are endless. When it's dropped at your front door and you open it up and you're like, look at it and you're just like, okay, uh, how do I make this thing shine? There's so many ways for that to happen, and it was a really fun process for me to shoot. Um, and then the second part of it, actually writing my own story, and if we have time, I could go into it just briefly.
We do. Yeah.
That was the hardest part for me, honestly, because it was coming up on my 31st birthday when I wrote it, and I had a brain aneurysm on my 24th birthday, and brain surgery, and then woke up back in 2013. And so it was kind of the anniversary of this huge surgery, and I was kind of dealing with that at the time, and yeah, so I if I can go into that story at just the beginning, I could kind of like go walk you from the where I started and where I finished with my story.
I would
Um,
love that. I remember hearing your story in a booth in some town we were in. I'm not exactly sure which trip that was, but I would love for you to share it. Yeah.
yeah, it's been a long time since I really thought about that until I sat down and wrote that. But I think it was 2012. I was at a summer camp in upstate New York, and I was doing this like big color war competition thing for the summer camp. And I was doing like a push-up competition, and something in my back of my head cracked, and I felt it pop, and it was followed by this excruciating headache. And I didn't. It lasted for like a week. I didn't do anything about it, and then 3 months later, I was working a job in Oregon, and every time I bent over, I felt this headache, and so I played college football and figured it was probably just a neck injury that was lingering around. I ended up going and getting an MRI on my neck, and it captured like part of my brain. And the neck doctor sent in the scans to a neurosurgeon in Portland, where I was living at the time. Um, he called me, this doctor, the first time I ever heard anything from him. He just was like, "Hey, I'm so and so. I'm a neurosurgeon. I just looked at scans from this doctor. You should come in and as soon as you can, and we should talk about what I found." And it's like, "Okay, sure. You want to schedule an appointment?" He's like, "Well, if you can come in now, you should just come in now." So I was like, "Oh, huh. All
Whoa.
right. Yeah." So I hopped in the car and I drove an hour to this office, and I sat down, and my neurosurgeon had a whiteboard, and he basically drew a just diagram of what was going on, and basically showed a jelly bean sized bubble in my left brain, and two of them. And he told me this is not common in people your age at all. Um, and it's really just a time bomb that it'll get bigger and bigger over time, and eventually it'll pop. And when that happens, you'll have a stroke and you'll probably die. So he he told me he didn't know when that was going to happen. It could happen tomorrow, or it could happen 20 years down the road. Um, but he offered me the next day to get me into surgery and fix it and do a bypass through my artery. So I initially was like, "Okay, well, I'm in tomorrow. Let's do it." So I called my parents and explained to them what was going on, and they freaked out. Like, "What are you talking about?" And I put my neurosurgeon on the phone, and he explained it in more detail than I ever could. And so the next day I was in surgery, and yeah, I went under. It was a success, and I woke up on my birthday, November 6th, in the hospital that I was born in Portland after surviving that. And so it was like, to me, um, it was a kind of a rebirth a little bit, and it brought up a lot of uh, pretty hard feelings about how I wanted to live my life, like any sort of life-threatening situation would.
Yeah.
And like, do you taking advantage of the day, and so it brought this really hard urgency to live life. And it, after getting that cape and thinking about that time, and reflecting on that every year, I think this is the year that I had reflected on it the most. Where am I? How far have I come since that time? But actually writing about it, to send to you for you to post it around, it was hard, because it trudges up a lot, that I was feeling around that time. Um, yeah, so I guess that's kind of like the story of what I wanted to write about, and what I've really wanted to reflect on for years, but actually haven't done in writing. So thank you for that.
Oh, wow. I thank you so much for sharing your story. I had heard part of it that day that we talked, and I just think, like, tears in taffeta, like, that's such an excellent example of what this movement, what the book, what all of it is about. And I think it's so brave of you to share your story. I really think we're changing the way that we think about capes through this project, and the capes that we grow up seeing and the superheroes that we follow and the comic books and the movies and all of that. And I just feel so honored to get to share your story, and who would have known that day? I just remember it was a booth. There was a booth and I was looking for any kind of vegan food I could find. I'm not sure what they brought me, but um, who knew that you would then be sharing, your story with the world, with anyone who is connected to this movement. So thank you so much, Travis. I'm so honored and humbled to get to share both yours and Annie's stories.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and the cape itself, the color and everything, I think um, we can be pretty serious in life, and you can tend to get into the like deep, serious like mindset of getting stuff done and moving forward and keeping things moving forward. But there is a element of my life that is a necessity for me. It's silliness, like being weird and like showing off your colors, and that's me. Like I know you love to dress up for Halloween too.
Yes.
Yeah, my wedding is on Halloween for a reason because I love it, and I think that's a big part of being goofy and like keeping stuff light. Um, and the cape is a silly thing. It's a big, bright parachute rainbow cape that you got to run around and frolic in. And somebody mentioned that in their post that they put it on and they had to frolic. Like that was the urgency to frolic was strong, and that I can totally relate to that.
I love that. Yeah, your pictures were just I opened up the email and I was like, "Oh my gosh, these are it it was just like you had your own world for several moments." And I know that you're such a skilled photographer and that you and Annie work together to create, those photos. And thank you so much, Annie, if you're listening, for being behind the scenes. But I mean, you talk about fun, like they just looked so magical. And you bring up like weirdness. Like I love to see people's weird, like what is your weird? Like what are you bringing into the world that's like uniquely yours? And so your pictures, if anyone's listening right now or, viewing this on YouTube and hasn't seen the pictures yet, the photos, please, please, please go, to ginabell.co and look up Tears and Taffeta and see them because they are just magical, Travis. They're absolutely magical.
Thanks. And I think it was for me like getting in front of the camera is a very hard thing, and I go back to that again, like the practice of putting yourself out there, making yourself feel vulnerable. Like this was a big challenge for me just to be able to do that because I never ever in front of the camera. And it was funny, like Annie was out there with my camera and I'm like, wait, do this, do that, wait, go over here. And she's like, if you want me to capture something, just let me do it. Like I got you. Just go out there and have fun and let loose, and I'll get something fun. And so it was a big exercise in just letting go and just going and having a good time. And then, yeah, I was able to like look at the pictures afterwards and was blown away by the stuff that she captured when I just like let go of what I was doing. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you can tell they're absolutely beautiful. I'm so glad you guys had moments like that because I think every photo shoot, like people will be contacting me during them. They're like, and then they're like, this is amazing. And they're, like it really goes back and forth. There's like this pressure and this sometimes this release. And I feel like you had both of those things happening at the same time, which again is so Tears and Taffeta, you know.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you're facilitating this for so many people. And, maybe for some people it's they get it and they're just like, let's do this. And they get right out the door and they make it happen. And it's different for them. For me, it was like, yeah, it was challenging. I knew it was coming and I was like, am I going to be able to do this? And I got my hangups on it. So I think it's really interesting that you're you're sending this thing out there that is so unique. It's an object, and it has endless opportunities to be able to create with. It's just a prop, and whatever people want to do with it, photo wise is one thing, but whatever they want to write about it is another exercise. And so it's yeah, it's a lot to deal with when you get it, and to be able to want to like hop into that, and like maybe like stir up some demons. So yeah, I'm super grateful to be able to have been a part of it, and I know a lot of other people are too. Everybody else that gets it, I'm sure, is like, what is this thing? Especially the skirt. It's huge and it's amazing. Um,
Did you
and
notice how it changed, Travis? By the time it got to you, it had changed. It was different, and it not just the energy, but the way it looked. My husband kept saying, "How's it doing? Is it still like in one piece?" And I went, "Yeah, somehow that thing, keeps getting pushed into boxes and pulled out, and it's still going strong." So I imagine you noticed that it did seem different when it came to you.
oh, for sure, it has a ton of character. It's like when we were shooting with the skirt, we were in a cornfield in rural Ohio, and there was like hay and all kinds of stuff that was all getting mashed into it. And I was like, oh no, we got to keep this thing pristine. And then we like sat down on the floor and we're picking some stuff out, and was like, let's leave a few pieces of straw in there for the next person that gets it, because, it was a part of Ohio. So we'll just leave it in
Yeah.
there.
Yes, I love that. I've been in that position where I'm pulling mulch out of it, and yeah,
Oh,
I love that you left some. That's so cool.
yeah. Yeah. That thing it has been yeah, all over the place, and that's got personality to it, and that's what's fun to look at and to see it. And I hadn't seen it in so long, and I saw it when it was brand spanking new. You hadn't even worn it yet, so to
Yeah.
see it after it had been all over the country, it was like, oh my, look at this poor thing. But yeah, it's the skirt.
Yes. Yes. And hopefully that skirt, really haven't announced this yet, but hopefully that skirt will be part of the next skirt that's made for the next season. So I'm hoping Cass can, make, add to it and do some different things. And then we'll have a skirt that's still the same, but a little different. Yeah.
Oh, she's incredible. She can do anything with whatever material
Yeah.
you can into her. Yeah.
I agree. A friend of mine said, "Do you think she can make like overalls, like coveralls that are tulle?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, no doubt she could do it all."
Well, what are you gonna do next with what kind of material then? Are you gonna build a jumpsuit or something like that?
Oh, I don't know. I was just thinking like, I really want to wear tulle like out more often, and the skirts can take up, and which is the perfect thing. They take up space, the same as the cape. It's like it gives us permission to like take up this space in the world in a different way than we might have growing up or normally. But yeah, I'm thinking like I need some more tulle to like wear out, like to grocery shop in. And I thought, why not coveralls? That would be cute. So yeah.
Really cool. Yeah.
Yes. All right, Travis, we're at time. This has been so great. I would love for you to tell people where they can find you. You're a brilliant filmmaker. Oh my gosh, the pictures you've been sharing online are just so fabulous. It's like just again going into another world, seeing, through your lens has been absolutely amazing. But where can people find you if they want to know what you're up to?
They can find me in somewhere in the Eastern Sierras. I live I live outside of Yosemite, but yeah, I have an Instagram, TD_Howe, and that's where I share my photos and the little documentations that I make of my life.
Cool. Thank you very much. I invite everyone to check out your work. It's super amazing. And much love to you and Annie. And I wish you both the best. And I'm just so grateful that you were here tonight, Travis.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a huge fan of everything that you do, ever.
Same, same,
All right,
always. Thank you.
bye, Gina.